for AlphaGamma from the Netherlands. So Arthur, welcome to our forum, and thank you very much for being active in participation in the earlier sessions with some very interesting questions.
The pleasure is mine. Thanks so much for having me. Give me a second. I'm just making sure that the screen is shared. Give me a second. There we go.
I think you will be talking to us about something very interesting, which is education. Education is a very interesting topic to everybody, especially these days. So I think we will be very excited to hear your vision about it.
Yeah.
So go ahead, please.
Thanks so much. Just before I move on, can you see the slides?
Yes, we can see it very clearly. Go ahead.
Fantastic. Great. Okay. My name is Arthur Gopak. I'm CEO and editor-in-chief of AlphaGamma, which is a business portal for young professionals. And indeed, today I'm going to be talking about 5 unexpected ways how education is going to change after COVID-19. So before I move on, yeah, so this is how we look like. So we're a purely digital platform, and we cover content that's that covers career and business related tips, trends, and opportunities. And we create content in the form of articles, in the form of blog posts that address the topics that are relevant to young readers aged between 18 to 35. Speaking about the stats, so we reach almost 2 million people every month on our platform, and also through the channels that we own. And even though we're a global platform, so that's the reason why we keep our content in English. We have the primary readers are based in Europe and North America, and hopefully, thanks to World Forum Digital, we'll be able to fix that. Now we do have also quite a lot of international partners, and for the sake of this presentation, we featured a couple of universities that we've been collaborating with, and so we do have a bit of insights when it comes down to not just talking to what the perceptions are among young people and current students, but also the educational institutions. Now, so before I start talking about like the future, like about the 5 unexpected ways, I would like to give a bit of a framework in terms of where we are today. So that's why I'll briefly mention the current trends that affect the current education industry. So as all of you know, that due to the recent pandemic, that the traveling is restricted, and it's not just the international travel that's restricted, but sometimes also domestic travel. As a result, there is a minimized social interaction. So when we talk about the context of education, so we're talking about the online learning or distant learning, and which sounds like a futuristic idea. In reality, what we get is that we're having a challenge both for students and lecturers. And even though we are technologically ready, we still aren't there yet. And I'll address some of those challenges a bit further. So another important aspect here is that yes, sure, we have the pandemic, which is a short-term trend that's happening right here, right now, but there are underlying trends that are related to technology, and also the demands that we as the users place, on all these services, all the products we consume online. And right now, I can tell that Insta everything is the definition of younger generations, of younger users. So it's very easy to get accustomed to to receiving response immediately, or getting your order placed today and receiving it like not just tomorrow, but within the same day. And this also adds pressure to not just the consumer products, but also to education. So we do demand speed and quality for any type of product or service that we're paying for. And a couple of speakers mentioned this trend that, and the reason why there is a goldfish on the slide is that typically a goldfish has an attention span of 9 seconds, while a modern user has the bit shorter attention span of 8 seconds. And a couple of speakers mentioned this previously today. But this is actually the good and bad news for the education professionals from the academia is that even though the attention span is limited, it's critical to suggest relevant topics, the ones that actually trigger the attention, and then it's easy to follow along. And it's, again, like, I can't emphasize relevance enough, because being relevant, that's actually the question of survival at the moment, to be relevant to what the students want, what the employers want, and follow the recent tech trends. And to add the insult to injury, since now all of us have the benefits to enjoy, our virtual conference, so is everyone else. So as a result, there is a constant 24/7 fight for our attention virtually, which means that I wouldn't be surprised if after a while our attention span will even shrink further. But the challenge here is that since all of us are going through and focus our attention on a handful of mediums like laptops, computers, tablets, then all of like the rest of the world is gonna make sure that they're visible online, that their universities, their programs, since we're talking about education, or if we're talking about any other education related initiatives, they're visible, they stand out, and there is a challenge that the end user, these potential students or current students, they're constantly bombarded with all the offers from all over the place. So that's another massive challenge that the academic professionals face. Now, it's not all doom and gloom here. So obviously there are many. All the challenges, they do bring a lot of opportunities, and I can't wait to talk about them. So here are the 5 unexpected ways how education is going to change after COVID-19. So the first way, and probably the first point I would like to bring out here, is that the in-person interaction gonna become far more valuable than the virtual interaction. So let me explain what I mean by this. Is that even though we have a chance to consume content virtually, and still we can answer answer the questions or address questions virtually, still there is right now there is no meaningful alternative to a physical in-person interaction. And the forward-thinking universities, and the universities that we have been working with, they were having discussions with us to see what aspects of education in general, not if we're just talking about the current trends, but what aspects are the most valuable among current students. And after talking to our members, our community members at AlphaGamma, we realized that the reason why students pick the degrees, it's not just the knowledge, but it's an ability to meet like-minded individuals. It's an opportunity to connect with outstanding alumni who are part of that university network. And it's less about the actual content per se, even though I know it's quite debatable aspect, but bear with me for a second. that if we're talking about the knowledge, if we're talking about the courses, the degree curriculum, it's pure information. And I like this quote of Tom Cheesewright, one of the outstanding futurists, that in an information age, knowledge isn't power, it's a commodity. And I put the coffee beans here because, like, in financial markets, the like the coffee beans, corn, milk are some of the commodities that are traded, and they only have the market value. And the same with knowledge. So universities can't provide it, and no longer it's long gone are the days when universities could only provide the knowledge and just charge for it. So now it has become like so universities now are faced with the challenge to remove, or if not remove, but significantly reduce the cost and the tuition fees from students. And so there has been also a recent study conducted by a consortium of UK-based universities that asked the alumni of all UK-based universities about the value of network, about the about the reasons why they picked specific degree, and the overwhelming majority people, or shall I say alumni, mentioned that almost 90% of those respondents mentioned that they value networking and socializing over the rest, like over the other aspects that universities have to offer. So, so the second point that I would like to bring up, so it's inevitable that since there is this paradigm shift, that the knowledge has become a commodity, that there are new monetization models that are going to emerge, and universities will have to look for other ways to compensate the loss of the tuition fees, tuition revenue. And that's why they'll have to think hard, because even right now, if we're looking, say, at, I'm not talking so much about Europe, but say if we look at North America, for instance, then they're already facing, US-based universities are facing the challenge of charging the same college fees for Zoom classes, and the students, of course, are reluctant to do that. So because they feel that the online tutoring is not a good substitute for that, and as a result, universities will have to think of other ways how to monetize on their assets, on their research, on their on their network that they've built over the years. On top of just charging for the skills. And I wouldn't be surprised if the degree will become free of charge, and in order to get access to alumni networks, or to get access to specific mentors as part of your experience on campus, you'd have to pay extra for that. And there has been also another study conducted speaking about the exploring the the current trends and the prospects of the MOOCs. So these are the massive open online courses. So right now there has been a heated discussion about the distant learning, and MOOCs also received quite renewed attention, so to speak. But then again, we shouldn't be excited as much about online learning or distant learning, because only 3% of users complete a course on their own. So when it's voluntary, then the chances are very slim that a person would actually accomplish the course. So that's why still online courses will not completely get rid of universities, and universities will still be able to provide this guidance to currently enrolled students. So, but still, I'll just wrap up this second point that the shift will move from paid degrees to offering more extras that enrolled students would have to pay for. Now, the third aspect. So, since a lot of students struggle with the real-time distant learning, education will have to become more engaging. So, and by more engaging, I mean that it will have to be more interactive. It will have to be more listening rather than projecting what they have to say like in one way. They'll have to interact constantly with students. They'll have to see what they like and what they don't like, and then adjust accordingly. And now there has been a great study conducted by Top Hat, a Toronto-based Toronto-based company that has recently conducted a study on the perception of online studying among students, and the overwhelming majority, so probably the like absolute majority of people surveyed, they said like they don't enjoy the online study, they don't see the value in it, and they do lack the social interaction of it. And the social interaction, the networking part, it was the main reason why they picked that degree in the first place. So, and as a result, the universities, the colleges, educational institutions will have to adapt to it accordingly. Now, the fourth point, I know I'll have to speed up a bit. So the fourth point is that universities, in order to thrive in an environment like this, they'll have to explore new horizons. So what do I mean by that? So those universities that that focused on specific geographical area or specific industry, they might consider and target new segments in order to expand their reach and target more people. Because once they do that, they'll be able to tap on this massive trend that's coming. So even though, yes, there are a bit of hiccups in terms of the way how the interaction is happening between the teachers and students, still it's inevitable that the number of students is going to be increasing. And just as you can see on the charts conducted by the global projection, you can see that in the next 5 years there's going to be an increase by more than 120 million new students alone. So, but if we'll project this trend further in the next 10 to 15 years, that this number is going to almost double. So still there is a massive opportunity for universities to tap into this and to address new markets in order to make sure that those students will eventually join them. And the fifth point, the last one. So I briefly mentioned the aspects that we get constantly bombarded by information from all mediums. But now, since all our attention is focused on our devices like laptops, tablets, phones, then the digital marketing is going to become far more aggressive, and for universities, in order to stand out, they'll have to be more creative, and they'll have to communicate their value. If in case they can't do it persistently, they'll have to do it loudly. And I'll just throw a couple of stats here that universities today, they're spending millions of dollars, euros, pounds, depending on where they're based, in order to boost their visibility as a brand. And primarily, like more than 50% of those budgets, they go into digital ad spend. So that just shows that the virtual means are going to become not just the way how we interact with educational institutions, but also is going to be the way how we're going to learn about them in the first place. And the university is going to do their best to make sure that we'll see and hear them. So I know, so we're out of time. So this is the brief summary. And again, if you represent a university or you represent an organization that wants to work with students or want to recruit new students for your program, so hit us up a message on alphagamma.eu, and yeah, let's take it from there. For now, thanks again for the opportunity. Mohammed, back to you.
Sir, thank you very much for a very interesting and very insight topic. Education is always very interesting topic and very close to everybody's heart. Unfortunately, we are running out of time. So I will just take one question from our colleague Satya. He is asking you, what's your current collaboration agreement with the international universities, specifically in the United States, for them to be your partner? If you can, Arthur, just answer it in 10, 15 seconds, I'll appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so we help them with either bringing students to their programs, or we help them with bringing attendees to their conferences or innovation/startup initiatives. I
Thank you
can't say
very
more.
much, Arthur. Thank you. And I know it's getting late in Netherlands now, so have a good night. And we move